Now, it should be noted, we didn't get to the Albert Breer report yesterday where I couldn't tell whether Albert Breer was saying that the most likely thing is that Barry and Stefanski are back, or if maybe there's more of a chance than we all believe that at least one of them is gone. But it does seem like if you take that as kind of where the Browns are, that the Browns might not have a firm grasp on where they're going with Kevin Stefanski or Andrew Barry going forward.
Yeah, and listen, I have no idea how they make up their mind on Andrew Barry at this point, although Andrew Barry seems like he's almost 100% safe.
Yeah.
I think all of us could agree we'd be shocked if tomorrow, or let's say at the end of the season, it came out that Andrew Barry was part of the firing. It really comes down to whether or not Kevin has been able to do enough through Shedeur in order to keep his job.
Yeah, and I just think in general, I think the Browns can say we play nice together and kumbaya and all that other stuff and thought partners and all that. You have 2 straight seasons where you lose this much, and eventually someone's going to come looking for a scapegoat. And in fairness, the Browns have had a scapegoat darn near every year.
Well,
right?
And it could be easy to find one. And yes, they always have one going back to the Joe Woods days. They've always been able to find somebody. If at the end of the season they wanted to make Bubba Ventrone the scapegoat, they could do that. Now, we might all say that's not good enough, and we might scream about it, but they would then turn around and be like, all right, like really, the Bubba Ventrone move is the same as the Ken Dorsey move.
Yeah.
That's just changing something up and then saying, all right, we've done something a little bit different.
I think what's interesting about this is we're right in the kind of position where I would expect them to be making the decision, but I'm not concerned if they don't have a plan yet.
Well, I get what you're saying, but what's interesting to me is that it feels like 95% of the fan base has already made up their mind.
Yeah, that usually happens.
So what is the other 5% hanging on to that would be the same thing that Haslam is hanging on to? Like I saw somebody earlier today. Forgive me, it wasn't anybody that is like in the media's place or anything like that. It was just a fan that I follow. And he was like, all right, so tell me why we shouldn't keep Stefanski. And the responses back were like, well, he's won 6 games in 2 years. That's the end of the conversation. Because the guy was trying to legitimately make a case that Stefanski had done a good enough job and seemed like he was good at his job. And it was like, you're just ignoring the wins part of this. You're just ignoring how many losses he has. Like we know this. We know Jimmy Haslam told us. He told everybody in that thing that got leaked out, 5 games into the season, that 3 wins isn't good enough. That's what he said. So if you go 0 for 4 over the next 4 weeks, I don't know how Jimmy Haslam would walk away thinking this was good.
Well, but I actually think this is a defense of that. If you're Jimmy and you want to have the most amount of information for this year, I don't think this year should be the make or break. But then again, if it isn't, then you could have just fired him last offseason. But, I can understand if you go, all right, we finally are getting good quarterback play. We have a one-off bad defensive performance. Let's see what happens in the final 4 games. I can see Jimmy having, because there's a personal relationship. You and I don't have a day-to-day personal relationship over the last 6 years with Kevin Stefanski. Nobody but the beat reporters in town really have. So, and even then, there's stretches of time where they're not hanging out, chilling with Kevin Stefanski, like if you're in the office. Like, at some point, you got to make a decision real quick because you're going to have to act real quick. But I get it if Jimmy's thinking to himself, I at least owe it to Kevin to let this go down to the wire, and I don't think we're at the wire yet.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Like, if you want to see what the next 4 games are, like, is there a part of Haslam that just wants to make sure that if Shedeur is awesome over the next 4 games and you're winning a lot of these games and you look competitive in these games, that he wants to keep that continuity alive? Is that going to be the case?
Yes, 100%.
Like, because there is the thought process out there, and we can debate, again, we have the amount of credit that Shedeur deserves versus what Stefanski deserves, but there's a thought out there that if it's rolling, why would you disband that?
Yeah.
And so, the last thing Haslam could do is fire Stefanski, hire Robert Saleh, let's say, a defensive-minded coach, and then watch Shedeur take a step backwards next year, and then everybody wonder, oh, no, did we make a mistake? And so that's what I think the next 4 games are. And that's where I think he is. He's trying to figure out how much of this is because Shedeur is just Shedeur, and how much of this is we need to make sure it's a Shedeur and Stefanski collab, and this is what's actually happening.
Well, and remember, the Browns can still be making inroads and having conversations. There are times where those conversations happen in November and December, and the coach keeps their job. Whether they're talking to agents or canvassing kind of the market, just to size up, hey, if we do have to make a move, what? So you could have already done the background work if you need to make a move. Here's something I also think than in terms of, because again, I've made up my move. I'm done with Stefanski.
Right.
And I don't think I can get rid of Stefanski and Barry, so I'll take the guy that I think is part of the problem out, and I'll give anyone that wants to say Andrew Barry just had maybe the best draft in Cleveland Browns history, I'll give you, it's recency bias. He could tank this next draft, but I'll at least give you this draft, right? If I give John Dorsey the first 4 picks of the 2018 draft and hold that up as gospel, I got to do the same with this. But, like, I can at least make that. But I understand if Jimmy goes, all right, we'll do that background stuff, but there's just not a guy out there that I'm concerned about losing, right? Like, there are guys I like. I've mentioned David Shaw, although I know that was meant to crickets. If he
Not
ends
for
up,
me, I like David Shaw.
Well, no, I meant like in general, like fans of that's the guy you want.
I've always liked David Shaw.
I'd talk to John Gruden. I'd talk to Mike McCarthy. I'd talk to Adam Stenovich of Green Bay. I'd talk to a lot of people because to me, I don't give a rat's patootie. That's the second time I've said patootie in this show. I'm sorry, guys. The rat's ass. I don't care when the search starts. It's just, to me, it then becomes, because there's not a singular Vrabel, Belichick, Carroll in this. That's fine. Then it becomes about you just have to get the right outcome.
Well, there's not even like a Vrabel Ben Johnson combo either. You know what I mean? Like this seems like it's a pretty barren desert, and that might impact his decision with this too. You know, I really do wonder how much of this is just tied to the idea that legitimately Shedeur could just save Stefanski's job.
I think that's fair. I also think I wouldn't put it past Jimmy to say I don't see a coach out there that's better than the coach I have, although I don't know what's going to change in a year. Hey, Thomas Brown got more head coaching interviews, so a year from now, I really feel good about Thomas Brown. You know what I mean?
Unless he just doesn't want to start the new head coach off on the wrong foot. Like if Shedeur all of a sudden stumbles over the next 4 games, and then they feel like to themselves that it's going to be like a Deshaun Watson versus Shedeur quarterback battle, and they don't even think that's like a winning enterprise, if they believe that, not that I believe it, but they believe that, then they might just wait, and Stefanski can take more losses in the meanwhile.
216-474-0092. Should the Browns have already made up their minds with Stefanski and Barry? I do think they've made up their mind on Andrew. I would be shocked.
I do too, yeah.
I would be shocked if he was not here next year. And I know that's going to upset some people, but...
Isn't that... I just kind of feel like that's standard practice for how we think about this now.
Yeah, well, and also, listen, I think there's a lot of logic to most GMs in the NFL get 2, unless you are... It's visible you can't draft at all, unless it is... Maybe you have like the worst trade in NFL history on your record. Unless it is just undisputable, you can't be trusted. It would make sense if Jimmy says, all right, I don't want to have to do both hirings alone. Let's go ahead and give Andrew. I believe in both guys, but I'm going to choose one of them, and then I'm going to let him help me choose the next head coach.
And if what tipped the scales was the Deep Podesta to baseball move, then that's what tipped the scales. But it seems like he's there now.
Yeah, like in the grand scheme of things, if Deep Podesta losing means I got to keep one of Stefanski or Barry, I'll make that sacrifice 10 times out of 10. Like to get him out of this building and to get this, and again, it's the, and they still have it, and it's something when, I shouldn't say when, if they have a new head coach, I really want this guy to just not be doing the corporate fakeness of, well, these are all of our moves. They're all of our children, and we love them all equally, and we're all equally responsible. No, it's football. Certain people make certain decisions, and even if the power is divvied up in a way that is closer to the way Pepsi runs their organization than, let's say, the Belichickian Patriots ran their organization, okay, but at the end of the day, somebody has to be responsible for things like wins and losses or individual decisions.
Yeah, no, I mean, no doubt about it. It's a little surprising to me that they'd be this open-minded, but they've been this open-minded the entire time. And this also goes back to the idea, Nick, they want Stefanski to succeed. Yeah. They have the entire time. Yep. Like they've not been shy about this. They've given everyone between Stefanski and AB more than enough fair opportunities to make this work. And so it wouldn't shock me that they're extending that leash and they're trying to really see this whole thing through.